Okay, cool. Okay, so we'll start. Actually, we won't start from that screen. So you can see my screen, all right?
Very good, crystal clear.
Cool. Okay, so the first thing that has been changed was we used to have a tab that was called Groups on Tenements and various other assets as well. That's been renamed to Links. The reason for that is because there's things on here that aren't groups. So what you can see on here in this particular example is you can see all of the groups that the tenement's in. You can also see the agreements where this is a related agreement. If there were any contacts linked to this tenement, they'd be listed on there as well. So by having them on this tab, you can filter for them. So you might want to filter, say you had a few tenements selected and you wanted to know which agreements they were linked to. You can filter by agreement, and now you can dump out a report of all of the agreements that all of those tenements are linked to.
Right, okay.
Now we've also made another change to do with agreements, is that you can add the related agreements field onto the tenement template. So if you wanted to have in the data grid of your tenements all of the related agreements in one column, the same as you can have a list of group memberships, that works now. That wasn't working previously. Now another really cool thing is to do with actions. Sometimes you might have a particular comment or something that you need to do for one tenement's rent, or a specific action for that tenement, where you want to have a note that carries forward, so every time you see that action for that tenement, you'll have that note on it. So now we've added the ability to have a recurring comment. So the way that that works is you would put it on the next upcoming instance of that action for that tenement. So you just add it as a comment as you normally would, but you put a plus sign in the beginning. So it might be that you need to have a meeting or something like that. You put your story about whatever it is, but it's the plus sign that makes it a recurring one.
Okay.
So you click OK, it'll put that on there, and then whoops, just save that. And then when you update your actions, just move that over onto this screen. We've got 5 updates, and what it's doing is it's copying that comment down onto every instance of that action. So when I save it, we've now got that on everyone. Now, if you had used the exclamation marks for doing prioritising it, so if you had 1 exclamation mark for a medium one or 2 for a red one, then when you do the update, that will flow down to all of them. So you just have those exclamation marks on the beginning. So the plus needs to be either before or after, like it needs to either be at the beginning or within the first 3 characters of the comment in order for that to work. Now there's a bit of information on the user guide about how this works if you need to make any updates or if you need to delete the recurring comment.
Okay.
Now we've also changed the way that the save process works for ad hoc actions. So before, when you created an ad hoc action, when you went to save it, you get a prompt saying, are you sure you want to save it? And then you get a second prompt telling you that it had created X number of records. So if you were doing, say, an interim rates notice, when you saved it, it would tell you it's creating 4 records because you've got your action and those 3 tasks. That wasn't really achieving anything, giving you that prompt, so that's been removed now. So when you save it, it just saves it and closes it in a single step. So that's just made that a little bit faster.
You know why sometimes if you
Sorry?
didn't, sometimes it would double up when you did it.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that would happen. We had a save button on there, and every time you hit save, it would just create another one. And
Right,
so
yeah.
we took the save button away so that you don't have that problem.
Okay.
Now the other thing that we've done is we've added on the ability to make it recurring. This is probably more useful on agreements because every agreement is going to have, it might have similar kinds of actions, but the frequency might be different. It might be that you need to have a review meeting every 3 months for one agreement, every year for another one. So now with these ones, you've got a recurring checkbox on all of the different ad hoc types, and these recurring actions work. It does the calculations pretty much the same way that Outlook does. So if you've ever used recurring action or recurring tasks in Outlook or recurring calendar entries, it's the same as that.
Okay.
So you might say that it's monthly, it's every 3 months on the 15th day.
Yep, okay.
Now it'll put that cycle as well as the original one that you've done. So in this case, I've set it to the 4th of July, but this might be something that I always have these meetings on the 15th of every month, but the first one will make the 4th of July. So you'll
Okay.
see that the first one in here isn't actually in the sequence. If I'd set it to the 15th, then it would be lined up with that.
And have you
Um,
changed the default date? Like when you used to open up the ad hoc, it would default to like May 16. Is that
yeah, that was a problem. It's not doing that now. So you can see that this has defaulted it to the 4th of July, so it's put it to today's date.
that's great, yeah.
And then you just put in here when you want it to end, whether you want it to do a certain number of instances or no end date. Now, if you put no end date, currently it'll create the next 20 instances of it. We're actually working on a change to the way that this will behave so that when you do updates in the future, as time passes, it'll keep adding new ones onto the end of that, and you'll also be able to specify how many you want created by default, but that's coming in the next version. So for now it'll just temporarily give you a set of 20 if you've got no end date, or if it's going to create more than 20, just as a starting point, and then next release there'll be a bit more functionality around that.
Yep, okay.
Okay, now the other change to do with actions is previously if you did a bulk import of actions, so if you had actions that had come from another system or you were previously managing them in Excel or something like that, when you imported them, it would add on to the end of the name of every one a hyphen and the word legacy. So they wouldn't look the same as your original actions. And if these were ones that were going into the future, it was just adding a bit of confusion. So that doesn't happen now. So whatever you've got as the name of your action in the spreadsheet when you do the bulk import, that they're the names that will come into LandTracker.
Okay.
Just for a little bit less confusion there.
No worries.
Now we've brought in a couple of extra fields that are particularly useful for people that are used to them in empty audit, and they are, when we go to select columns, you've now got the rent last and the warnings field. Now this will depend, so we've got last MTO rent, so that's your the last rent that you would have seen in empty audit. Now the warnings one, if you don't see warnings listed there, it means that none of your tenements have any warnings on them. So if you have any, then that field's available. If you don't, then it won't be there. But if I turn that one on, we've now got that warnings information. That's we can't download that direct from MTO, but what we've done is we're giving you the same data that would show up in red on the front screen when you search for a tenement, and there's also some extra calculations that put some extra things in there. So again, that's the same as you would have seen in empty audit.
Okay. All right.
Now there was just a fix that's been applied to filtering. What would happen before was if you had the same value in various rows, but it was different case. So for example, if we had live in uppercase in one of the cells and not in the others, when you went to do a filter for, you would actually see live listed here 2 or 3 times, depending how many different cases there were. That's just been fixed, so you'll only see it in there once. So it's not case sensitive anymore.
But would that have come from MTO because that's imported from
Oh
MTO?
yeah, yeah, that particular field does, but any other fields, that was just a handy example because it was in front of
Oh,
me at the time. Yeah, so any fields at all. Um, Now there was also a bit of a bug with autocomplete where if you were starting to type in a field, I'll use this as the example just because again it's in front of me, but when you started typing, if it gave you a list of possible options to choose from, it wouldn't necessarily pick the one you clicked on. Sometimes it would give you something else at random. It might give you the one at the top of the list. So that's been updated now as well so that you won't have that problem. Whatever you click on, if any of these cases where it gives you a drop-down list to choose from, whatever you click will be the one that's actually submitted into that field. Okay, we also have a new view for tenements, which is this one here, expenditure by year. So I'll just save that. So this is going to give you your year's total commitment and your total expenditure. This is the data that's come from MTO, but it's just been summarised by year so that you've just got that data in front of you, just as a way of monitoring that.
Yeah,
So
you
that's
know,
similar to the... Sorry? Sorry, what was that, Linda?
I thought Jeremy was talking to you. Sorry. What I was going to ask is when I went into actions, all actions, and you go expenditure, and you go
Yep.
expenditure by month, if you can't seem to be able to change that view. For example, if you were to do all assets, I'd have to look at mine. Hold on a minute. See the holder, for example, because if you've got all assets, you don't know who the holder is. It doesn't show you. Um, the only reason
On the action.
yeah, because if you go sort of like view actions, and then you can go like expenditure, um, expenditure all actions next 3 months, and then you go expenditure. I was trying to do this. Hold on a minute. Let me just see. I don't think it's that one. Action reports. It was. If you go action reports, and you go expenditure due by month.
Yep.
I was trying to put in, and I've got it there, but it's not linking up, and we've gone through this before. I was trying to put in the group reporting number, which it's not. I've got the column there, but it's not linking up. And
Right.
and also the other fields like the commencement and expiry dates, if you could change the view on that, but you don't seem to be able to.
Yeah, the expenditure, the reports can't be modified, so they're going to give you, they're not going to give you any filtering. You could use your global filter for that, but yeah, maybe we'll look at that after this session, so we can have a look at that and just see if there's anything that we've missed on that one.
Yeah, because it's a really handy report, because if more so if you've got multiple clients, and rather than having a report per client, you can have what's due per month. But have the holder there, so you know who the client is or the manager of it. You know what I mean?
Yep, yeah. So that's something that we can look at.
Yeah, no worries.
Now there's just a bit of a change that we've made to the user guide. Previously, if you got an error message, so for example, if I wanted to import this tenement, it's invalid, so I'm not going to be able to import it. But if I said import, you get an error message, but there wasn't anything previously that was actually telling you what that error message meant. So
Right.
now we've actually done an update so that when you click on the question mark for accessing the help page on the wiki, it takes you to this new page that's been created that's all about your error messages. So you can
Okay.
scroll down, you can find the error message that you're looking for. So that was, have a look, missed it, nothing valid selected to import, and it will tell you what the message means and what you need to do about it. Now we won't have absolutely every error message on there. Most of them are the ones where it's not a bug, it's just something where the system's telling you something, but it will let you just give you that bit of information. It's a fast way of telling exactly what's going on. Obviously if the answer's not in there, then let us know, and we'll be able to help you out with the solution, and also we'll update it and add it into this error message page. It's just a bit of a faster way of finding out what's going on with any of these messages that might appear.
Yeah.
Now another bug fix to do with importing was that if you tried to do a holder search and the holder name contained any apostrophes, there were problems with importing it. There were various other problems throughout the system if holder names had apostrophes. So that's been updated now so that that won't cause any problems. There's only a few holders that are like that, but if you ever come across them, that won't be an issue anymore.
Yeah, okay.
And they are our changes for this release. Are there any of those that you've got any questions about at all?
No, I noticed
Other
that
than
you
what we've
got
already discussed? Yep. So
subtle.
the next release is going to be letter F. So if you've got any recipes that are your favourites that start with F, please go ahead and put those on onto Trello. And also on Trello in the coming soon, we've got a list of what we're planning on releasing in the next release, which will be on the 3rd of August.
Okay. All right. Okay then. Can I just ask? Sorry, I don't know if you want to talk about it now when we get off, but the rent up. Look, I'll talk about it after the session.
Okay.
It's just rent updates, because let's just stick to what's in the new release.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really good.
Okay, no problems. Well, I will stop recording then.